Okay, communication.
Doesn't look possible. Yeah, that's something I'm not feeling. We're ready? All right, good morning. Today is Thursday, December 18th, 2025. It is 8:46 in the morning. We're here for the Albany Municipal Water Finance Authority board meeting, Today we have myself, Kaylee Ois, Dan Herring, Julia Morris, and Mike Whalen present. Do I have a motion to approve our minutes from September 25th? A motion by Mike, a second. All in favor of approving without reading? Aye. All done. I don't believe anyone is on for our public comment this morning. So we can mosey on along and jump right into our advisory reports. Kim, would you like to start us off this morning?
I will. Good morning, everyone. It's hard to believe that we're in December. Only seemed like yesterday was the summertime. So I'll begin with a overview of the markets. Everybody seems to follow what's going on in the markets, so I don't feel like I'm really giving you any new information, but I'll give you my spin on things. Stocks have done well again for this year, double digits. You know that I only do bonds, and bonds have also done well. Typically bonds don't have significant returns, but because we were able to buy yields at much higher rates with the Fed raising interest rates, which actually peaked 2 years ago to 5.5%, they have come down over 200 basis points, but there's still a lot of opportunities, and you can buy bonds and lock in 4.5% yields, which, you know, the one benefit of bonds is you get back every penny that you put in when the bond matures, and then you get the interest annually. But we started off this year with a lot of uncertainty, as the Fed would say, fog, unclear skies. I'm not sure if we're in completely clear skies currently, but we're certainly, things are less foggy. The Fed did lower interest rates 75 basis points this year. They did it very slowly over the course of the year with their last 25 basis point cut in the December 10th meeting. They've been heavily criticized, but I think the Fed has done a wonderful job. The last couple cuts, 2 cuts, September and December, were more a risk adjustment. They were concerned about the labor markets weakening. There's still some concern with the labor markets weakening. But overall, you know, I think I mentioned this all the time. There's a big concern about inflation, and inflation has come down. It's not growing as much as it was. However, prices are 20 to 25% higher on everything over the past 5 years. So the input costs to a lot of, you know, end products that we buy have gone up because of wages, and no one's going to take a wage decrease. So therefore, there's many of the prices that we see. Eggs aren't $7 anymore; they're $3. But you can't live on eggs. You still have to, you know, pay your car insurance and pay your medical expenses. So food is just a portion of the overall reality that we live in every day. And I'm sure you've heard about the K-shaped economy. The stock market returns over the last few years have done very well for some people, the wealth effect. And then there's a lot of people on the lower end which are struggling, and they can't pay their bills, and they're living paycheck to paycheck. And unfortunately, I don't see that changing anytime soon, you know, because like I said, everything costs more. But the Fed, when they met in December, came out and said that they only anticipate one more cut coming in 2026. And the markets are really pushing back on that. The markets, right now, there's no Fed cuts priced into the markets. The Fed influences the short end of the market, and the 2-year right now shows no cuts. The cut, if they do cut, will be the second half of 2026, not the first half. But it was interesting this week, Bloomberg, which, I listen to all the time, and I really think they're pretty smart people. They put out a study this week, which showed, they used AI and they went back through 10 years worth of data and numbers. And they actually think that inflation is peaking. It will be transitory, which the tariffs would be a one-time adjustment, so that's transitory. But what was interesting is they think the Fed is going to have to cut 4 times next year. And that is completely, a very bold statement for them to make. So we'll see. The Fed's goal is to get to the neutral rate. The markets want it to be as low as possible because that helps the stocks. But you don't want it too low because if it doesn't, if spending keeps going up, then inflation comes in hand. So we're currently at 3.5. The neutral rate is thought to be 3.25. We're really not that far off. So we'll see what actually materializes over the next year. Does anybody have any questions? There is no recession forecast for 2026. It's like at 6%. Recession. So no worries there. So there's always a saying that stocks do not grow to the sky. But they seem to be going up and up and up. So we'll see what happens as to when that changes. Does anybody have any questions? I included the most recent report in your packet. The authority, the first page is the summary. The authority is on the bottom half. Chris and I had a chat before the meeting. So the authority is all the debt service accounts, as well as the construction account, which has been whittled down from over 20 million to now 1.5 million. It's down from 3 million the beginning of the year. So that money has definitely lasted a lot longer than was anticipated because it was supposed to be exhausted a couple of years ago. But I guess Chris says there's some bills in the pipeline, so.
There's probably some, I was guessing a few 100,000 that's still in the pipeline.
Now there's a
lot more than that. It could be gone. But yeah, it was 1.5 million when we officially did our last submission.
Yeah.
So.
But still, the money market is paying 3.72 in the account, so it's still earning a decent amount of money. The second page of the report is the board's money, the excess funds. And then the following page is the schedule of all the transfers that are made. Everything's been paid for the year. And then the last pages are just the detail of everything that's paid. The required transfer schedule, the EFC payments, transfers to the city for various projects and paying of invoices. So everything is in good order. And that's all I have to say. I wish you a wonderful holiday. Like I said, I can't believe it's the end of the year already. It seems like it goes by way too fast. I hope, Joe, you have a wonderful retirement. I know you're not going anywhere yet, but I wish you well.
Thank you. I'm actually not retiring. I'm just not gonna be working with the city, so.
Okay, well.
I'm not gonna retire. I need structure.
Our paths
Thank you.
may cross at other events in the Albany area,
So, thank you.
but it's been my I've known you for a long time. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Thank you. You're welcome.
All right, Kevin, are you ready for our capital plan?
Yeah. Hello. Hello, everyone. If you don't know me, I'm Kevin Hogan. I'm with Arcadis. And each year Albany Water Board has a revolving 5-year capital improvement plan. And so we do a high level review of your assets and facilities and develop a report. Um, and, and you know, so we go and well, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll just go to the next. I'm gonna run out of, we're gonna go to slides. I'm not gonna have anything to say. So let's go to the next slide. So as I was saying, so we go to the different assets and facilities like the water treatment plant, the pump stations. We do a select number of pump stations each year. The Loudonville Reservoir, the elevated storage tanks. So we go through, visit some of these facilities, and we talk to staff. Like we'll go to the plant, talk to the staff at the plant, talk to the staff at Loudonville, and look at the projects that are going on, see if they have any concerns or things that they would like included in capital improvements. Next slide. And so the report is the structure. First, we go for a description of the assets, and then we go through what the present condition is of those assets, and then go through and describe what are the recently completed and planned projects for those facilities and assets. Next slide. And so I just wanted to give a summary of some of the projects that happened in 2025. And so at the filtration plant, you guys are wrapping up a liquid lime and maintenance building, improvement, aeration building, rehabilitation improvements, fluoridation system. There's always ongoing pump station rehabilitation that's going on. For sewer repair, you have 14,000 linear feet of sewer was lined this year. Water main replacement is always ongoing, but in addition to that, there was a study and report to have a more systematic replacement and repair of your water mains or distribution water mains. Next slide. Lead service line replacement program is a big program that's ongoing. All communities are going through this right now. But for at Loudonville, you're adding lime to the system now to increase pH and reduce corrosion in the system. There was 725 lead services replaced in 2025. The goal for 2026 is to replace 1,000. So you have about 25,000 lead services, or as the best estimate that you have right now is that 25,000. So you're about 25% done with those replacements. Another interesting project is you now have continuous distribution system leak detection. So you have 662 sensors on hydrants, and there's 77 miles of detection. It detected 82 leaks over the past year. Between those sensors that are on the hydrants and the manual leak detection that's going on, you've tested about 30% of your system, repaired 45 leaks. It's a really, interesting way to, I mean, years ago, it was just, you saw water coming out of the ground and like, oh, we have a leak, and so now the technology is great. You're able to really evaluate your system, determine where you have potential issues, and then the field teams go out and isolate those problems, find the leaks, and that's less money that's wasted, less water that's just wasted. So that's a great program. Next slide. Yeah, so this is the budget. So we have an Appendix A. We have the budget for the year. And so this year it's 2026 to 2030. And the budget is about $31 million, which is similar to what it was previously. And a lot of that is paid through grants and financing. And so that Appendix A, it'll summarize, for each year for the next 5 years. And then there's a description as far as what the specific projects that are going and when that money is expected to, or those projects are expected to hit. And then for Appendix B is the 2025 report. So we like to keep a record of the reports that were developed that that particular year. For this year, some of the reports, there's the North Hawk and Orange Street porous pavement and stormwater management report, rehabilitation of Basic Creek Dam, the 90% design report. And as I was saying before, for water main replacement, there's a water main replacement report that goes through and identifies areas that for distribution water main replacement. And then there was an asset management plan that was that we helped the city develop years ago. And there are goals for that asset management plan. And so each year we look at that plan and see what has been accomplished and adjust as needed and identify projects that have been completed and the status of projects that are ongoing. And so you'll be able to find that project or that summary in Appendix C. And then the one of the main goals of this looking at this each year is that you have an outside consultant that's looking at your system and talking to your staff and just making sure that you're on the right track. And so each year we provide a certification. It's based on this high level evaluation, and the state that with the undertaking of the CIP and with regular maintenance undertaken by the Albany Water Department, is the undersigned opinion that the present level of water and sewer services can be maintained for 5 years covered by this program. And that's something that we agree with, and we'll be providing that certification this year. I think you guys are doing a great job. And we work with a lot of municipalities, and Albany Water Board is very progressive and on top of things. And so it's a pleasure to work with you guys. So that's all I have. Any questions about this?
I'd just like to point out, as official consultant, Arcadis also signs off in regard to these upcoming financings. So that's part of the duties. And tomorrow, the water board will be anticipate the water board will be renewing Arcadis's contract, so that it'll be keeping going forward. So thank you, Kevin.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
All right, thank you.
All right. Did you want to go before or after?
I can go now if you want.
Sorry?
I can go now if you want.
Okay.
Okay. Sure. All right, everybody,
Yes, Kevin, did you want to stay?
I can go.
You have to
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Okay, everybody, this is the financial results of months to date through November 2025 and the month of November for this year. First off is just the overall revenue collections compared to prior year was a $585,000 decrease. Year to date revenues of $36 million, an increase of 4.6 million over the prior year. There's going to be some a little bit of anomalies in there, but obviously does reflect our rate increase. And obviously that's the right direction there. Miscellaneous, a small 6,000. Our customer penalties and interest revenue for the period is 288, and it's $600,000 for the entire year through November. That's a sizable number, and something that we didn't break out in the past, but something that we depend upon. Our expenditures for the period were total 6.23 million, slight increase over prior year. There's some timing issues there as well. But the year-to-date expenses of $32 million, it's a $4.6 million increase from the prior year. When we get to our departmental schedule, a few pages down, you'll see how that's breaking out. But we've been a little bit of a broken record that we've had certainly more operational expenses that we're catching up in 2025. And I think we're going to see that it sort of level off as we got towards the end of the year. But from a year-to-date perspective, that's a big increase. But as Kim pointed out, 25% overall, cost increases amongst other things is driving a lot of that as well. So it's an interesting period to operate. Next page, Karen, our capital spend, so we're breaking out our disbursements that we get on a monthly basis at total, just a little over $1 million. Broken out there for some of the remaining of the Beaver Creek, 18903, a lot of activity with 18903 past few months. And a grant piece for the wetlands, $62,000. Our actual budget compares with revenues and expenditures. For the period, we were under budget by 2 million for revenues, and 1.7 a year to date under budget for revenues for year to date. Again, our budget is just simply divided by 12. We're going to have some timing issues when you want to compare it to actual results. Our goal for 26 is to not just divide our budget by 12, but put some seasonality to it to match our actual results. So those disparities should start to come down, and that's our goal for 26. Same thing with the expenditures. Again, we're comparing the budget. A lot of our what I call contingencies, things that hit our due from haven't hit yet towards the end of the year, and that's why there's some big numbers there. They will hit. There's no question about that. So I can discuss that a little more later. That affects our due from account. Next piece, age receivables, about 1.3 million. That's about current for us. We've done a good job, certainly with with Bill and Arif. We've collected, and we'll see in our aging, a lot of our age receivables. A lot of it was OGS was a big part over the past few months, and just throughout the year. So we don't have these windfalls of cash anymore, unfortunately, sitting out there. But we've collected a lot of it, and that number is essentially current of that 1.3. So that's well done there. The line of credit was about $2.1 million. That's been sitting that way for quite some time. The goal is, once we finalize what we think we're going to get from the city, when we finalize the due from, once I'll believe it when I see it. Once we have a final number in our hand, the goal is to take down the line of credit immediately. So we should know that number sometime in January, and that would free up almost $10,000 of actual operating expense and leave us that line of credit, hopefully only for emergencies. And we can just use our normal operating cash and financing grants to fund our projects. Interest paid to date, again, it's 73,000 with that line of credit. Our bond debt about 1,068,000. Majority of that is EFC and our operating bonds that we went to the public with. Next page, Karen. Again, so this is just the the financial statement breakout of what I just spoke. You can go to more so to the year to date and seeing from a revenue perspective, 36.6 million, and an increase of $4.6 million over prior year to date through November. Very strong, 14%. Our investments are slightly under, but we're pretty much on track with that, almost 4% less. And then our expenses, again, they're higher, but we have they're a little higher percentage wise than our revenues through November. We'll see how that tracks near year end. That should be probably almost equal. But that's again, it reflects a lot more spent in 2025 for items, particularly vehicles, equipment, that we hope pays some dividends in 2026 and beyond. But in talking to our people, we've purchased all of the big truck items, the $300,000 back trucks / dump trucks / shovel trucks, things of that nature. So we put, again, a big capital investment there, and we hope that pays off. And we believe it will pay off in the next year or two. Next piece, our debt service costs, pretty similar. Again, this is kind of a budget to actual technically almost, but we're in a period where our while it's not reflected here, it will by the time we get through December, our debt service costs are going to be going up. We're spending more money. We expect about 5 contracts, I think, to go long term, and in 2026, we're estimating about a $700,000 increase to our debt service, which is good given the amount of debt that we've had. We have favorable debt. EFC is a great place to borrow from, but again, it's going to go up, and that's what happens when you're taking on these level of projects. So that's that page, Karen. You can go to the next. This is just again kind of another summary of our revenue and investment income. But the main point of this sheet is just to show sort of our ancillary income that I call our additional cash receipts, and it's 373,000 totaled up through 2025. So again, this supplements our normal income. It's valuable along with our interest income. It's a sizable piece that helps us pay our bills, no question about it. So this is our page to monitor this. I think we still have some HUCFIN liabilities out there, but we're working on that. And I think usual tax negotiations down the road. But that's something certainly Laura can address. Next page, Karen. Again, so this is what you're seeing before our departmental year to date expenses versus budget, and then the actual expenses year to date from 2024, broken up by our department's administration through pumping stations, and then the last I'll call them sort of fixed costs, even though annually they go up. Our taxes, our county sewer, and our contingencies and insurance. The contingencies, that's what workers' comp, things that flow through that due from, they all get rolled up into these contingencies lines here. And you can see the actual for that piece. If you go to the middle column, there's 1.8 million that we've spent. The budget for that is 4.1. So there's a lot of these expenses going to hit right after, during December, right after the year end. They're going to do general entries to put them in December. You'll see that amount there equalized. And that's, again, these are amounts we also want to audit. I don't think what was done previously is we get the charges and we pay them, or we just don't see them because it's an offset. But we're aggressively making sure that we're not getting billed for things that we don't understand and that we haven't approved. So that's on our docket for 26, and we have been doing it in 25. The summary below, summarizing all that data, you can see from an expense summary standpoint, what we spoke about verbally before, $32 million of expenses spent in 2025, broken up between personnel, equipment, contracts, and benefits. And in 24, it was $27 million. So that's a $4.6 million increase. And you can see, as I spoke, it was equipment this year was 2.1 million. In 24, it was only 215,000. So that takes the major piece of that that differential and explains that. And the other pieces are salary. Everything's kind of going up to a certain extent, but that main piece is equipment. And again, we hope that pays benefits coming up. The next page is our CapEx spend through 2025, going back to 1995. But what we can focus on here is sort of just for the right column, top right. These are our CapEx, our 8350 accounts, as we call them, and that's $8.2 million worth of expenditures as income statement. CapEx 8350 expenditures through November, and the sort of the buckets below. If you go to the total grants and financing, we have 12,072,000. So $12 million worth of grants and financing has come through and into our bank accounts. We've only spent 8.1 million of it. So that's kind of, when you see our cash balance, when you see what Kim shows you, our cash is essentially inflated by that. That's not operating cash. We're holding that cash to pay off our CapEx. So it's fungible right now. We keep it all in one account. We've been discussing perhaps maybe segregating that, giving it maybe a better interest bearing account, perhaps. Maybe making some money off it. But before we couldn't do that. We depended upon that money to fund our operations. So at this point, we have the ability to segregate that. And I think between Reef and Kim, we might try to set up that mechanism going into 26. Next page. This is our overtime schedule. Again, we got hit pretty hard earlier in the year, but we're pretty consistent relatively with the prior year. We track this, it sort of is what it is. Joe is usually a lot better speaking about this overtime than I am. Maybe we can talk about it later, but it's pretty consistent. I always thought it kind of fairly low given the activity that we do have. So I think that's pretty positive relatively. Our due from as of November, again, so we're about $2 million that is owed to us. We believe this number is going to be substantially higher. And I don't want to quote a number, but when the dust settles at the end of end of the year, end of December, there's going to be a number there that we're going to, I won't say demand, but request a settlement on that should come back into our coffers. This means we've been overpaying substantially on a monthly basis to the city, and it's just not something fiscally proper for us. We shouldn't do that on a number of different reasons. But that's not the real number yet, but that's obviously the trajectory we wanted. And we thought it was going to be that way earlier in the year. When Arif and I were like, it has to be, can't keep going back down. When we went in 23 and some previous years, it was all over the place. So we think we're monitoring it properly. We think it's going to be higher, and we're happy about that. At that point, again, letter of credit, some other things that we're trying to hit that we haven't, we're going to take care of. Large users on unpaid balance. We're aware of some of those. That's actually fine. We're some of these are natural 60 to 90-day payers, which we're pretty consistent with. That's just the aging report. We can kind of skip through that, Karen. People can look at that. That's going to total that 1.3 overall aged receivables, and that's well within our capabilities. It's been much higher in previous months. Next page is our analysis of Route 7. So this is again, we got strong performance from 2024. We're really SUNY Polytech and certainly OGS driving a pretty tremendous amount of that, and that bears, these are our tier 2, these are our high, our highest charge rate people. And, this is something we're monitoring as we're going along, but it's, we haven't gotten as much Bethlehem, I think, over the past, I think they're off now, right? But overall, from an annual perspective, that's 1.8 million. That was even in our budget. So that's, that's fantastic. And I think we can skip to the next page. This again, you can just focus to the very right-hand corner. 1.9 million is what is owed to us after all these calculations right here. I won't spend a ton of time on this. We've talked about it before, but this is how we track what's going, the various ins and outs and charges, which hopefully we're going to get once we get this schedule as of December is going to show us a pretty sizable number. But again, there's just in December, a number of things hit overhead charges against us. Certainly, other items, tax roll from our perspective are going to hit. So we'll see what that number is when it pans out. Next page, Karen. Again, so again, pretty, strong results for certainly through November and for November. A little bit of an anomaly there, but we're about 9.6% up there for that year, and that's been pretty consistent since the early part of the year. But we expect that sometimes it takes a little bit for these rates to take effect, and that's a strong route. So we're happy with that. I think that is it. That is it. So strong overall, and but we'll have the real answers and then the real sort of analysis, and we'll put together some highlights for the year once we get through December. And but overall, looking strong cash flows.
What was the value of the roll?
Tax roll ended up being it was 5.6 and it ended up being 5.1 is what actually got rolled to the property taxes. So that is considerably higher than we put a few more things in there. The 99 state had a pretty good vat. That was about 300,000. There was again, then we hit and it reflects a 10% revenue billing increase. So prior year was about almost 4 million, 3.9 or so.
It's the highest I've ever heard.
Yeah,
It is by far.
By far.
Yeah. So we checked it. We printed it out, came out of Springbrook, and this is who owed us at that time. Again, we put a couple Route 7s that weren't normally in there, so that bolstered it a bit. But and City Hall accepted it, and they've vetted these things well. Again, it was 5.6, so that means there was about 400,000 or 500,000 we couldn't match up the property tax lots or got kicked out for whatever reasons. They went back into our system. We're going to collect that money now. It's not going it's like a roll, like we said it was. So that's even better. We want the money. But yeah, we thought it was gonna be, I didn't think it was gonna be over 5 million, but I thought it was gonna be in that ballpark, but it was, so. But that's, so yeah, so let's finalize on their side. We'll book that for December once we get our what's the year end complete.
And I should add, it's a little confusing, but that $5 million is really not revenue for today. It's on January 1st, when the tax bills come out, it becomes a receivable. And so, but it's an incredible number. That
It helps us tremendously, which also, we need to make sure we know what's getting put against that. I think in years past that it gets offset too easily. So we're going to be diligent and make sure we know what's going against that and that due to us. But anyways, that's it. If there's any questions?
Nope, no questions, unless anybody else.
it's also worth noting, is that the financials, not just the numbers are incredible. This is, well, since COVID, we have not had a great year. And suddenly all these things have, they're looking a lot better in 2025. So, and certainly in 2026. You all have a copy of this. Those who have been on the board for a while probably remember what we do in December. But the reason we're doing it, and really the biggest responsibility of the member of the authority, recognizing that the board owns the system and operates the system. The authority's responsibility is to the bondholders. And there's a requirement in the bond indenture that on an annual basis, going into the year and once the year is completed, that there be a test of what's called the debt ratio computation, and which is right on the first page here. And it has to be 1.15 to 1, which means that for every dollar of debt, we have to have $1.15 of effectively of net revenues. And the number has hovered around 1.5. Last year was 1.56. This year it's 2.1. And there's some reasons for that, but most of them are good reasons. And what I'm going to do is just go over each one of these pages and then come back to the first page, because the first page is a summary. But I'll start with just quickly going over that. The revenues are projected next year with, as you know, there's a 7.5% proposed rate increase that would go into effect in January. The public has an opportunity to come to the meeting tonight. And it's worth noting that last year and the year before were each 10% increases, and no one from the public showed up at either one of those meetings. So if we were to look at this first page, both 2026 and 2025 is there for reference. these are not actual numbers, these are budgeted numbers. So again, we cannot have a budget that would show that we wouldn't reach the required debt coverage ratio. So we have about $44 million that's going to come in for combined revenue and investment revenue. The expenses of the system are about 34 million. They're actually about $5 million higher, but what we do is we take out the capital projects that are embedded in the operating budget so that we have pure numbers. So that's 34 million. There's board expenses, authority expenses, which primarily are stipends. And so our total expense is about 34. That leaves us the ability to fund debt service is about almost $11 million. Our debt service is about 5.1. Capital projects are what are likely to occur, but there's funding for that. So you take the 10,000,007, that's the numerator, the denominator is 5.1, and you come up with a little over 2 to 1. So we are clearly well in compliance. Let me turn the pages quickly. Schedule A, the next page, is the budgets for the past 5 years. So it's 2026, 5, 4, 3, 2. And you can see that the budgets have increased pretty significantly. What's happened in past years, particularly in 24 and 25, is that there were a lot of positions that were not filled. So we had budgeted numbers that were somewhat higher than you'll see in the current year. The total for 2026 is 39 million. The big thing that has changed is that the sewer contract number was $6.5 million 4 years ago. It's budgeted now for $8.7 million. So that number, that's got to be funded. Also in here, just below that, is the city allocation. That number has been around $900,000 every year. Schedule B are board expenses. This is where the stipends come from. There's payroll taxes, and there's also fees that are paid to the financial advisor out of that account. It's about $47,000. The next page, Schedule C, the authority has trustee fees in addition to the things that the board has, but you'll see the stipends, and that number in total is about 79,000. Schedule D is there's a summary of what our debt service is, a total of $5.1 million. So this is 2006's debt service. And on the top, you'll see what I'll call the big bonds. These are the bonds, the original bonds that were refunded in 2021. The total debt service there is shown between principal and interest that will fund $1.88 million to the trustee for disbursement during the year. And that's paid twice a year. In the middle, you'll see the EFC or state revolving fund notes. Some of them have interest, some do not, but the total there is about 2.3 million. And then on the bottom, you'll see some additional debt service, the Cohoes and Rensselaer transactions, and then another, it says other items, 700,000. That was what Chris was talking about. because there's going to be a fair amount of bond issues in early 2026. And again, the total debt service is the combination of those three. And in the last schedule, Schedule E, shows the flow of funds. So substantially everything comes in through the lockbox. It goes then to what's called the operation reserve account. And then it provides the funding first on a priority basis of the big bonds, which is going right to left. So the two in yellow, those are funded before anything else is funded. And then we have the ongoing projects fund, which is, let's call it an internal savings account. That is funded to the extent we have the cash to fund it. The city is the next column. And what happens here is that the total is about $39,000 that's transferred to them. But you'll see each month is a little different. And that is because 5 months of the year, we have special things that are added to what we'll look at as the base. So if the base, you'll see most months are 2,048,000. But the month of January, we also have the taxes that are paid, the property taxes. You'll see in April, it jumps considerably because we pay another $4 million for the county sewer contract. We also pay that again in October. So you'll see those two numbers are significantly different. In September, you'll see we pay the school taxes. So that's added to the 2 million. And then in December, we end up paying a number of different things, including the 900,000 due to the city and some other city things that they take a while to come up with. So that total funding is about $39 million. And I'm going to come back and just talk about that once more. And then the authority and the board are funded. So all that funding brings us back to the first page. And again, we're starting at $44 million or $45 million for total revenue. The expenses, you'll see there, the amount of debt, which we just looked at, was 5.1 million, which gives us a very safe 2.1 to 1 ratio for 26. One of the things that Chris and I talked about, and which we're going to try to do, is the $5 million that relates to the rollover. Again, the city looks at it as a 2026 thing, even though, because that's when the bills go out. What we're going to try to do, and I'm going to meet with Ken Bennett and to discuss this, is when we look at that middle column on the fourth page, on the last page, Schedule E, we're transferring $39 million. But in fairness to us, we are giving them $5 million up front. So in January, whenever they collect taxes, they'll have that. So what we're going to try to do is, let's say 5 million divided by 12 months, it's roughly $400,000. And we're going to try to get each one of these months reduced by $400,000 or $500,000. At the end of the day, the city's going to get the same amount, but with that, it allows us to do some things with the money, for example, pay off the line of credit and give us much better cash flow. So that is still open. It doesn't change the fact, it doesn't change anything with our ability to meet the debt coverage ratio. But that's what we're gonna try to do.
Why couldn't we get the $5 million?
They'll never give us the $5 million.
Can't score if you don't shoot, you know?
I don't know if they have the cash,
They
flow,
don't.
they could pay it off like, I'm
That, but it's not their money.
just saying.
I think it's a conversation worth having with the mayor elect at some point as well.
And the reason we have this giant receivable at the end of 25 is because we didn't do this last year. So part of our goal to help our own cash flow is to just transfer the right amount of money. And that's where we came up with
Right.
this. Yeah, so.
Right, and I mean,
in the first instance, you should have even.
We should have never, yeah, we should have never included that because it was already paid in advance. We already gave them that money. We gave it to them again essentially. And then they got to pay it back at the end of the year, which wasn't being done in previous years. It was going away, you know, so once we really looked at this thing like this, we shouldn't even be sending that money. And we've already done it.
Next year, can you make that adjustment?
Like 2027 or 2026?
It would be that adjustment going forward.
Right.
Whatever that tax roll might be, is probably
Just
going
like
up.
because of one time.
Oh, no, it should be every year. Yeah, that we would deduct that tax roll.
You've
Because
got
we've already
the
paid
new
it in advance.
administration coming in. I think it's worth having a conversation with the new mayor. I mean, these are legacy issues that are never gonna change unless you put it on the table and make the argument. You may not win the argument, but
I think you win the argument. I think the problem is there's no cash to give you.
Well, there is one that.
there is one that,
Once the taxes are
when the
paid,
taxes
but
are
like. I'm all
I
for
think it's a
making it.
reasonable, I think that's a good approach to take, but I think we still need to have a discussion and put on the table.
That's for the lump sum,
Start, well, I
and
mean, just
then,
present it in the context of trying to make that do from. You know, they never wanted to be more than $1 million.
It should be
Well,
zero.
one way it should be.
Yeah.
Well, let's
that's the
keep it
other-
to
yeah.
$1 million either
Yeah.
way, you know, which is what the target was. So I just think it's a healthy time to have the conversation.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
any questions? Anything else?
Happy to see such a good ratio, the best I think
I
I've
guess the
ever.
other question I have is when you're looking at this, you're looking at the 2025, those are budgeted figures, correct?
That's correct. Everything
So
is
if the
budgeted.
revenue is much higher and the expenses will be not quite that budget, that
That-
1.56 will be the favor.
It's gonna be higher,
It will be
the
higher.
actual number.
Yeah, it will be higher.
Yeah, what was the last actual bill? You had provided the historical on the actual. Bills.
The last year's was, well, last year's, we have 24s.
24, yeah.
I have that.
It's at my desk somewhere, I guess, but
20. I thought I had it. Well, I'll just say in 23, it was 1.87. In 22 it was 1.99. And in 21, it was 1.34. So that 1.34 is, that's kind of scary.
Well,
Because
that's what
you're,
prompted the larger increases that we did over the last.
that's right, we had 2 years of
10%.
10%.
10%. You know, 5, 10, 10, and then now 7.5, so that's why we're, I think, in a much better position now than we were.
Thanks, Bill. Commissioner,
Aaron, can you put up the KPI report, the one-page plan report, and the PowerPoint? Let's start with the KPI. I want to deal quick, then I'll work through all the time constraint here. Can you make that a little, so we can see the kind of the whole screen maybe a little bit and skew? We actually just focus on this. So what Chris was talking about before, so our revenue budget was 41 million, was 38, I'm sorry, 36 year to date. We put there all the revenue. We're gonna be north of that number. Since I've been here, we've never hit the budgeted expense at all. And even with the number this year was almost $1 million. Through November, I'd be surprised if that was over 35 or 36 at the end of the year, so I think that's more of a potential to have a more favorable number for their debt service ratio. I'm just gonna scroll down a little bit. I wanna, when you're looking through this report, we keep this report for our operating dashboard. It might give you a little bit of a healthy idea of just the level of effort. On the second page is really the activity of our operating crews, what we try to do for looking at the metrics for if we have a loss of service, what's the average loss of service, how many parcels are out. And I think frankly, for the age of our system and the number of main breaks that we have, which are significant, the loss of service is not it's not unreasonable. A lot of times our folks make these repairs under pressure, which is pretty amazing. We just as a FYI, and I just want to look more at the third page. Let's go down a little farther. One of the things that we looked at, we've been looking at, we do an 8 o'clock operations call every day. We talked about, hey, what's the flow through the plant? You see most of the time the average flow is around 17 million gallons a day. We've been running about 14 million gallons a day for the past 3 weeks, sometimes you get down to 12. And we're going, wow, so does that mean we're not selling water? It means maybe we're not leaking water as much either. But I think it's kind of a weird number. Bill and I think this is 5.5 billion gallons of water that we produced at the plant for the year. We're gonna be maybe just over 6 billion. And when Bill and I got here and started tracking this in 2014, we were about 7.1 billion gallons a year. So it just rolled down a little bit further. And Kevin talked about the leak detection. We actually have updated numbers. We got 777 sensors deployed, much more than what we had shown before, about almost 100 miles of surveillance. And we've actually found 100 leaks so far. And all these leaks are where the water's underground, so we haven't really seen them. And I think as we fix some of these leaks, that's one element of why that production number is going down. So our non-revenue water is being a much more favorable place than it was before. Okay, let's look at quickly the PowerPoint thing. I'll put it on. I'll put it on this morning.
This one?
Yes, of course. So this is a report we used to do for the senior staff meeting with the mayor every year, and we kind of adopted it for the, we should show it to the water board every month, the next slide. And we just kind of highlight some of the things that we're looking at. This is a number that are billings that reported almost 21% over the increase from last year. The two big projects that we had are the Lincoln Park Learning Garden. And we're trying to get that done this year, but we had some delivery schedule issues with the outdoor classroom building, which won't come until the spring. So if you drive by there now, it looks like a little bit of a war zone, but actually most of the site work is done. The pathways are in, to construct the wetland is essentially in place. So in the spring, we'll put the classroom building will be installed. All the final landscaping will be put in place, and the Lincoln Park Learning Garden will be open. That's the capstone of all the work that we did. That's the promise that was made to the community as a benefit to put the Beaver Creek facility where we did. That's going to really be, I think, after the pool and now the learning garden, the Lincoln Park is going to be a pretty special place to be. The fluoridation project, it's slower than we wanted it to be. We're probably looking at fluoride in the water around February now. And the important part of getting that date cemented in is the pediatricians want a date certain so they can stop prescribing fluoride supplements to the kids that are taking them that are in the Albany distribution system. So we are having a come to Jesus meeting with the contractor that if they don't get it going, we'll have a discussion with their bonding company to enhance the schedule and get that done. Joe DiGiovine has been leading a smaller group, Rebecca Calden, Amy and Bill and others, to really look at a management transition plan, which is complete. That's actually going to be presented, I think, to the water board tomorrow. I think we're in really good shape where we are. We've got a really strong team here. And I think everybody's like the flywheel, just keep returning, that's where we're at. And Bill will be serving as the acting commissioner until the position is filled by Doris. Next one. Let's look at the next one. This actually shows the water production I was talking about. This was the COVID year. we kind of kicked off a little bit, and then through this time, this is when the guaranteed purchase contract for Gilderland and Bethlehem is off. So we're not really, they weren't getting a 2 million gallons or whatever number that was, $2 million of revenue. So this is a new normal. And I think as we continue the leak detection and fixing the leaks, we're probably going to be, this is through November, we'll probably be about 6 billion a year, maybe just under that, moving forward. Does that mean we're going to lose revenue? Not necessarily. Let's look at next slide. This is the billings, that we've been looking at I look at the billings number that we have. That's going up quite a bit. And I think frankly, some of this is what Chris said. We had some unforeseen sales to Bethlehem, $1.6 million, which is kicked in here. So that's a pretty attractive number that we're looking at. We just want to make sure that that gross margin stays in place. We did buy a lot of vehicles this year. Some of that is we couldn't get them last year because of supply chain issues. I think we're pretty well caught up, as Chris said, on the vehicle thing. So one thing that we really need to get better at is what is the strategic plan for vehicle purchase? Right now, we buy things, we lease things, we keep for 10 years, they fall apart. It needs to be a better way to do it. Next one. This is Katie's program. As you know, I think Katie, I don't know if everybody knows, Katie's actually leaving us. She's going to go to Time Bond Engineers. Great move for her. We hate to lose her, but she's done a great job. And so a lot of this also is working in concert with the city engineer on her paving program. So it's been a great partnership. They put a project out to bid. We have lead services as part of that project. We pay for that. It's their contractor. It works out great. We just need to continue that. And again, this is just what we tell the water board. From 2019, the water board's issued 900 grants for $1.4 million. That's out of operating money as well. Next one. We show kind of a safety issue. One of the things we're trying to get a culture, core value of safety first has been working pretty well. We work with Capital Safety Services. Sarah tracks all this stuff with our incident reports, medical treatment. We have a couple every year that sometimes things just happen that you can't prevent, but we still have issues where situational awareness, younger first new employees kind of not sure where they're at. Some of the longer term employees are not in as good shape as we used to be, and that causes some strain injuries as well. And so we actually track a scoreboard of what happens, when the last date of lost time is. This actually should be 6. I dropped down a little bit, but we had somebody got out of the truck, slipped, hit their head, on the ice. Is that situational awareness? Older person, hard to say, but how much of this can you drill in and prevent zero accidents? Hard to say. But I think for the most part, the sewer and T&D where we have the most physical work, to try to, have that go up into 200, 300, 400 is pretty good. If we get that over a year, that'd be amazing. Next one, is that it? All right, let's look at the one-page plan. I want to do this kind of quickly. This is our this is the thing that all the employees hate this. I want to just kind of go back and look at, the things that we want to do 3 to 5 years. We do this every year. We set it up and we go up a little bit. So the goals that we have for this year was, the 1,000 lead water service replacements. If we need to replace all the water services in 10 years or whatever, according to the EPA plan, that's about 1,000 a year for us. We won't quite get to that number this year, but we put a pretty good dent in it. Justin, let's see. We're kind of working, that's a security thing. We're a little short on this employee recognition program. I think Steve Mercer, who's our communications and outreach guy, he's working with Karen and some other folks and Sarah. We want to come up with a plan to pay a little more attention to the employees. That's a hard thing to do. In my view, I think the thing that I would leave with for Bill and the operating peoples, we need to be a little more productive on the field work side. When you look at some of the other things, best practices, most people are doing a water main lead service replacement, maybe 3 or 4 people. We have a crew of 5 or 6. We do locations to go out and you mark in the pavement if you got where our utilities are. We have 2 people in the truck. If you look at Dig Safe New York guys that go out and do it for National Grid, it's 1 person. So these are work issues, work rule issues that we need to work with the union. These are legacy habits that are hard to break. And that's why these expenses go up. We can be more productive. I think we just need to keep our eyes on that, on the ball on that one. Just go down a little bit. This is something that I think we talked about before. How do we get it more to Bill and the folks after? We need to really work on that fleet study a little bit. We did liquid line addition of Loudonville, that's done. Scroll down a little bit. The key things that we want to do this year, I think most of this stuff we've got done. This is what I wanted, this is where I think Steve Mercer's done a great job with our social media. If you follow that, the things that are internal and external. Internal recognition, we have slides that we put up, a PB slide every month, trying to get some employee recognition into that. The challenges, I'm not working on that. So the fourth quarter this year, I kind of was in a hurry to get stuff done this year because I'm skating. We did do a great job. Chris got Paris up to speed. And that was a major lift. Yeah, because we were kind of behind the 8 ball a little bit, the last little bit. We've got full staffing now, finally. We did in the 2026 budget a senior utility billing clerk that got approved. We're gonna post that position, hopefully get that position on board. The challenge we have that is where there's that person gonna sit. So we're actually working with our facilities guy to do some space planning. We'll be shuffling some people around to make sure that we've got a spot for everyone to sit. We're almost done with Lincoln Park. Potholing continues. These are important elements from an operation perspective that we talked about before, the liquid line. That's going to help us maintain a good corrosion control in the system with water coming out of Loudonville. Fluoridation, that's, I think, is going to be kind of a capstone thing for the department and the outgoing mayor and the mayor-elect to be proud of. That's something that we've been working on for quite a while. Is that where we're at? All the way down. One of the things that we're also trying to do, this is something here, is we've got the Springbrook billing system that I don't think we really kept all the information out of. So customer service works with this contact issue at Springbrook. Dispatch, everybody else works with a different system. We're trying to put everything together. So somebody, I can look at 51 Cardinal Avenue. I can get a billing history. I can get any work done in my property at that point. Just kind of a common database. So we can tie that back in with our GIS and utility cloud. So I think a lot of stuff's been done. I know the Joe, when I mentioned the group that they talked about a transition team, they have a kind of a version of this that they've talked about, and they'll probably share that with you all in January. That's really it. I think the one thing we need to be better at is looking at some of the metrics, best practices. How do we get there? The American Waterworks Association has benchmarking studies that Bill and I are aware of that we've shared. Chris has seen some of those. And I think we could look at those. A lot of those are financial, some of them are customer service based. And I think for the most part, we're kind of in the top tier where we need to be. So that's kind of where we're at. Any questions in this material? Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner.
I'm
Last
trying
one.
to get you out by 10 o'clock.
I know. Bill, did you have anything you wanted to go through today?
Yeah, I don't want to spend too much time. Kevin kind of talked about some of the things that are here, but with regard to the things that are coming up for the board, we have this call at 10 o'clock in regard to this financing 18523, which is going from short-term to long-term financing. We talked about 18903. We're using that for current projects at the Fair Bush filtration plant. So that's being used short-term financing. Next couple of things. The 2 dam projects, we're still trying to see if we can get some grant money, and we're waiting to see what gets announced by the governor, maybe this month, maybe next month. We'll see whether we get some grant money towards those. We need to do these dam safety improvements, but we're really looking for some money for that. See, 19554, we're intending to be closing on a short-term financing soon. We don't have a date yet for that, but EFC's preparing the paperwork. That would be for water main improvements over the next few years. And we're going ahead with that. Maybe we could get some WEIR funding. We're hopeful on that reply. Lead services, we're using that $12.8 million right now. on a bunch of different projects with Newcastle, Lucy, that are the streets projects. And we can also use this inventory money also for the streets projects and for our own, work with our own forces, so we're seeking to get reimbursement so we can pay Newcastle and Lucy on some of those projects. Fluoridation grant, we've been starting to get some disbursements. We've applied for disbursements from DOH. We've got $1 million in grants for that. So that's moving forward. There's no new debt associated with that, so there's gonna be some spending out of water boards, ongoing projects. We're just wrapping up with some long-term control plans financing. We're probably gonna have excess money in the 1404. We're probably not gonna use all of that financing. But there's just a couple of projects left to finish up the long-term control plan. That 15-year program is finally gonna be coming to an end in 2027. Lincoln Park Learning Garden, we've got an advance on EDC grant, and we're gonna be applying soon for some money from Parks Grant. We're kind of using the Parks Grant for the building part of that project and the DEC grant for the site work and things that are more environmental. Academy Road, we've had a couple of grants, GIGP grant, and we've also had WQIP. So far, we've used grant money for that project. We had some work on Hackett Boulevard that's gonna come up, probably gonna be bid in 2026, but not necessarily moving ahead till 2027. Mostly because of wetlands permitting, which has become kind of a longer process now recently. 1800, the Tide Gates project is all done. We're wrapping that up, so we could go to long-term financing soon with that project. 1900 is a grant that we're trying to recover some of the costs. No actual financing. Thurlow Terrace is one of the ones that board members have just signed paperwork for. Thurlow Terrace project. It's got WIA grant money and Bill grant money, so it's a pretty good deal for the finance authority. And 2100. Also, it's $18 million of project costs with $10 million of interest-free financing. So that's the other one that we're signing paperwork on. And that's the government diversion we're kind of on hold with. And the North Hawk Street project doesn't involve any new debt. It's $2.7 million of GIGP grant. So that's what we're doing. We're it's an uncertainty in regard to what the federal grant situation is going to be like with lead services and so forth. And we just try to stay up, and EFC is having a monthly call. I'm going to sit in on just updates for upcoming grant applications or statuses with what's going on with the federal government. We also have a membership to American Metropolitan Water Association. They have some committees that we attend the meetings, and they have kind of feel the pulse of what's happening with legislation and lawsuits with EPA. So that's it. And I sure would like to give a note of appreciation to Joe Coffey for his great leadership.
Thanks, Bill.
All right, Laura.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it very quickly here. I only have two things. One is the reminder just for the annual compliance training. I believe you all should have gotten an email from our HR of the city for that. And if you have already completed those trainings through another employer, you can sign that attestation form. So just a reminder on that. The second item is the authority's budget office came out with a report in late October and talked about website transparency of all public authorities. They did kind of a forensic review of IDAs and public authorities and kind of took a look at what their compliance looked like from a perspective of making sure that you have all of your public documents available online. That's a requirement under the Public Authorities Law to do that. So it was great. The report came out with a list of things that you need to have on your website. And so Karen and I are working on that with you all. One note I wanted to add is that in 2026, my recommendation would be for this board to take a look at your mission statement and see if we can get board members to take a look at any recommendations for a change on it. That's it for me.
Thanks, Laura.
Yeah.
Under old business, we have a new phase of governance review. Karen, what is?
Oh, in what Laura was on.
Same.
Same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that will be coming.
that'll be.
So it's old new business.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, and we have better transparency from the ABO.
Do we know what we need to do?
Yes.
Perfect. So we will be waiting on that.
Yep.
We do have some self-evaluations under new business. I believe we can do that though, not during the meeting.
Yes.
And then we have our meeting schedule coming up. We will have our January 22nd, 2026 meeting. That's where we vote on our board membership officers. Thanks, Commissioner. And then we have our regular meetings in March 26th, June 25th, September 24th, and December 17th. Okay, we're going to quickly roll through these resolutions. If we are ready, we have resolution 25-13, adopting the 2026 summary budget and transfer document. Do I have a motion to adopt? I have the motion of the budget. Second, all in favor? Aye. 2025-14 resolution to adopt the 5-year capital improvement plan, which we went through today. Do I have a motion to adopt? A motion, a second? Second, and all in favor? Aye. Great. Resolution 25-15, adopting our 2026 meeting schedule that we just reviewed. A motion to adopt it. First by Mike, a second by Dan, all in favor? Aye. Yep. And finally, our resolution authorizing our disbursements for charity partners in the amount of $2,500. Do I have a motion to authorize? A second? All in favor? Aye. Great job. I don't believe we need to enter executive session. As noted, our next meeting is Thursday, January 22nd, 2026, 8:30. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. And thank you so much, Commissioner Coffey. It's been an absolute delight doing these meetings with you, and thank you for being progressive and moving us through this. And
I went quite quick.
sure did.
And just for a reminder, tomorrow we do our annual holiday thing, get some food, spread it out right here for the employees and our board members. So you're welcome to join us around noontime tomorrow.
Noonish.
Pizatos, and if people bring their own stuff in, a lot of good food.
Thanks,
No
Commissioner. for
alcohol
everything.
though.
You've done
If you
great.
have red cups, we don't ask what's in it.